I'd like to spend a few moments and try to break down how keys are formed, what accidentals are applied to each key, and some useful ways of organizing keys. So you may be familiar with it already, but we're going to talk about the circle of fifths and the cycle of fourths. If you've not done so already, I'd very much appreciate it if you'd subscribe to the channel, like, share, and leave a comment. If you'd care to leave a tip, my PayPal information's in the description below, and let's get started with some of this theoretical information. So at the top here, a very useful sequence to remember is the cycle of fourths. In this case, F, B, to E, to A, to D, to G, to C. We count these by counting the letter that we're on. In this case, F, G, A, B. So we get a fourth. From B, B, C, D, E. We're just going alphabetically. E, F, G, A, B, C, D. And here we're just worried about the alphabet letters. We don't have to worry about accidentals yet. It's a sequence that repeats in a number of different forms, both forwards and backwards, as we'll see. So that's the cycle of fourths, and that's the way tunes often go, is you'll see motion from, if I can see it here, from B to E to A, or from E to A to D, from A to D to G, certainly from D minor, say, G to C. So we're back cycling around the circle. If we look at it in terms of fifths, then we get this other kind of motion where we'd be going from F here this way around the circle. And it's less common, much less common for tunes to move this way, or progressions to move this way. It does happen, but it's less common. But this does give us some structure to work with. So again, in the fifths reading of the thing, so if we're reading this way around the circle, F, G, A, B, C is 5, C, D, E, F, G is 5, G, A, B, C, D is 5, etc. So there's a cycle of fourths, circle of fifths, and this is the way they arrange themselves on the wheel, if you can see. So we have C up here as a beginning point, simply because it can be made without having to resort to sharps or flats. So the two of the really important things to note that I haven't put on this sheet, but I hope you'll remember, I think with these two rules you could reverse engineer most of the rules of Western harmony, and that is between E and F and B and C, there's a naturally occurring half step. In other words, we change letter name from E to F and B to C, but we don't move a whole step. Every other move from an alphabet letter to an alphabet letter without sharps and flats is a whole step. So in this case, E to F is a half, F to G is a whole, G to A is a whole, A to B is a whole, but now B to C is a half. So the C major scale, if we just think of the alphabet letters, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. This is the other part of the information that you could use to reverse engineer Western harmony, which is this ordering of half steps and whole steps, which is whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. So whole, whole, half from C would be C, a whole step to D, D, a whole step to E, E, a half step to F. That's whole, whole, half. Then we have from F, whole, which is G. From G, a whole step to A. From A, a whole step to B. From B, a half step to C. Whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. On the guitar, these can be seen as a 2-fret move, for, say, from G to A, 3rd fret to 5th fret on the 6th string, or a half-step move, say, from 7th fret to 8th fret, B to C on the 6th string. So this formula becomes important because then when we start from other alphabet letters, we're going to have to modify with sharps or flats in order to conform to this whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half formula. So as we move here by a 5th to G, if we do whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half, we'll find that what ends up happening is that we have to add a sharp to the note F right before G in order to conform to the key signature or to the scale of G major. So in the same way, C major scale had a half step between its 7th and 8th degree. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, that's 7, 8 is C. So between 7 and 8, there's a half step. So in, in this case, pardon me, without having to think about it a lot, key of C has a B natural in it. Key of G has one sharp in it, and it is F sharp because it is its leading tone. The F sharp leads directly to G. And what we're going to do is consolidate, and every sharp that we pick up, we're going to add it to the new key plus its leading tone. So in the case of D, we already know it's going to have F sharp because it's farther along in this circle of fifths. So it's going to pick up the one that G gave us, which was F sharp, and it's going to add another sharp, which is its leading tone. A half step below D is C sharp. So the key of D has F sharp and C sharp. It has two sharps. I hope you're seeing, if this is new to you, that this is pretty simple then. If we have a memory of F sharp, C sharp, now the key of A is going to have its leading tone, which is G sharp. So we have the key of three sharps, A. Likewise, the key of E is going to have four sharps. It's going to have the F sharp, C sharp, G sharp from those three keys, and it's going to have its own leading tone, which is the note right below E, and that is D sharp. Likewise, B is going to have A sharp underneath it. We always have to think back a half step, and that's it. So for F sharp, we have a half step back, which is E sharp, believe it or not. That's why we have so many sharps in the key of F sharp. Likewise, I haven't written much for the flat keys here, but what happens with the flat keys is it's always the fourth degree that gets modified. So F, G, A, B, and that B is going to become B flat. So we flat the fourth degree of the keys that are on this side. We always add the fourth degree and make it flat. So F, G, A, B flat. So the key of F has one flat and it's B flat. The key of B flat has two flats, and of course it includes B flat and B flat, C, D, E flat. The key of E flat has three flats, and of course it contains B flat, E flat, and the one that makes E flat special, which is A flat. And I think you can see that in the flat keys, the name of the next fifth along is also the name of the flat that's added. So for F, we add a B flat. For B flat, we add an E flat. E flat, an A flat, a D flat, etc. And this just takes time and familiarity to memorize and work with. Notice too, very interestingly, that the key of F has one flat. The key of F sharp has six sharps, and together the one flat and the six sharps add up to 7. And it works in every case. So the magic number there is 7. Here's E. E major has 4 sharps. Key of E flat has 3 flats. adds up to 7. You can work with this on your own. The other great one, I'll just add as a little offhand remark here, is that in intervals, the inversions of intervals always add up to 9. So the first degree of a scale and its octave, 1 and 8, add up to 9. A second becomes a seventh. 2 and 7 are 9. 7 and 2 are 9. So a seventh inverts down to a second, and a second inverts up to a seventh. A sixth is and a third invert. A fifth and a fourth invert. That's how the inversions go, and they always do add up to 9. It's just a way to remember. So I hope this has been of some help. If it inspires questions, that's fine. It's a lot of information at once, but I wanted to point out some of the general patterns. And I'll leave you here finally with a way to organize your thinking around a key. So on the circle here, we have the circle of fifths, the cycle of fourths. Here's C in the middle. The 4 chord is to this side, F. The 5 chord is to this side, G. If we back cycle, we get to F. If we go forward in fifths, we get to G. So what I've done then is map the most important members of the key for each chord. So for C major, we give it its relative minor. They share 2 notes. The triad of C is C, E, G. The triad of A minor is A, C, E. So you can see there's 2 notes in common between a chord and its relative minor. We find the relative minor by counting back C, B, A. In this case, F, E, D, G, F, E. So E minor is the relative minor of G, D minor is the relative minor of F. If we stack them up this way, say if we were writing songs or interested in working on progressions, you can move, say, from C to any of these, say to D minor, to G, to E minor, to F. Any of those will work. If we go further into Baroque harmony and more earlier 20th century harmony, we give each of those relative minors their 5 chord. So in the case of C, A minor is its relative minor, and the 5 chord of A minor is E7. You'll hear this in the Beatles all the time. So they might go from C to E7 to A minor. Likewise, for G, E minor is its relative minor, B7 is its 5 chord, the 5 of E minor. Likewise, F, D minor is the relative minor, A7 is its 5 chord. So you could go from C to A7 to D minor to G and keep going, just randomly looking. What I like to do, particularly for the Baroque, is to give each of those 5 chords its companion 2 half diminished. And what I mean by that is it's almost thinking of them as one unit. In the same way in jazz progressions now, it's often taught to think of the 2 chord and the 5 chord as just one thing. It's just tension that's going to be released by going home to its 1. So in this case, C is 1, A minor is its relative minor, E7 is the 5 chord, and B half diminished, or B minor 7 flat 5, is the 2 chord that leads to A minor 7. So this makes 2, 5, 1, 2 half diminished to 5 to 1 for this relative minor, which is quite important. So you could go from, say, I think this is, if I think about it here, I think Yesterday by the Beatles is more or less G, F sharp minor 7 flat 5, B7, E minor. Also, You've Got a Friend, I think, by James Taylor, is exactly this, where we're starting on the outside, going inside, and coming back towards the outside. So again, some chord, its relative minor, its 5, and the companion 2 half diminished. I've only done it for these 3, but the idea would be to eventually learn it and be familiar with it in all the other keys as well. Given space limitations, I didn't do that today. So I hope this has been clarifying for some of you. I hope it's not confusing. If you need help, please ask questions in the comments. If you review the video, it might clear up some things. I've tried to be clear, but this is a lot at once, and I know it is, but I figure let's just get it done with. The sooner you're familiar with these ideas, the sooner you'll have clarity on them. And again, as always, I hope this finds you having enjoyable musical time, and I do wish you, as always, a very good day.